Hi, I wanted to talk to you today about a project that I've been working on called the Health Agents Collective. It's a multi-agent assistant system designed for healthcare. It works by having a user interact with an orchestration agent. That agent can then has sub-agents that it can delegate tasks to. All of this communication between the agents is managed through an A2A, Google's A2A protocol. So all of these individual agents are exposed through HTTP on specific ports. And you can add additional agents to this that will be available to the orchestration agent. So now I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper into each of the agents, what it looks like, and some code. Okay, so now let's look at one of the individual agents and we'll kind of walk through how it was created and how you can actually interact with it. So we'll start off looking at this triage agent. So if I switch over to the code here, you'll see it's very simple. I'm using Pydantic AI's approach to creating agents, which means it's very fast. This is essentially the code that creates the triage agent. And you basically just give it a model. In this case, we're using an open router model. This is, I think, Gemini 2.5 Flash, but you can give it a more powerful model if needed. You give it a name and you give it some MCP servers. So I can show you that. And then you give it a system prompt. It's basically telling it what to do. So you're telling this triage agent that it's a triage nurse and it has to gather some information about the patient and then assess the urgency and document items to the patient record. And it documents items to the patient record using a FHIR API. And this is where it uses the MCP server that we just gave it. So if we jump over to the left here, you'll see that we give it an MCP server. And I've just shrunk some of the items here, but you can see that this MCP server has a number of tools where it can create an encounter and create an observation, which is relatively simple. It just creates the FHIR resource and sends it to the FHIR server, which we have defined. So just going back to the agent here, the other cool thing about Pydantic AI is they have a very simple way to make these agents actually A2A agents. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, you can see that we just take this agent and we say we want to create this as an A2A agent. So now it's available or discoverable by other agents that are also using this protocol. And I can start up just this one individual agent. If I just go here, I can start this agent up and it's on port 8081. So if I go back to my back here and I can go to 8081, and if I add in the docs, you can actually see what it looks like. So it gives you a little bit of information about the agent. I actually started up the FHIR agent, not the triage agent, but it's the same thing. And it gives you information. This is actually information that's coming from the agent card. So you can go in and you can look at the agent card, which is an A2A specification for how it broadcasts, so it makes it discoverable. So it tells you a little bit of information here, and then you can go in and you can actually interact with it. And I'm have this connected to a publicly available FHIR server, so you can say, find me the patient with ID, and I think I have one in here. And this is all synthetic data, so it's obviously not real data, but it will go and it will find this particular patient and it will retrieve some information and, yeah, give you, the agent itself will give you a response. So this is how one individual agent works. So next we'll look at how you can tie all of these different agents together to do the work of a end-to-end process. Okay, so now we're going to have an example or show an example where we pull it all together and we have these three agents working collaboratively to answer a user's request. So you can see an example sequence diagram here, but obviously because these interactions between agents are more dynamic, it can change depending on the request. So sometimes it might go to a FHIR agent and sometimes it might go to a triage agent. All right, let's just start up our app and you can see our three agents have started up here on these different ports. So you can see which port is running which agent. We have our orchestration agent, our FHIR agent, and our triage agent. We're also doing some logging on FHIR, which is Pydantic's logging platform. So I'll show you some responses there. Anyway, first question comes up from the orchestration agent. What would we like to do today? So let's just find all the medications and the name of the patient with ID here. So, okay, so you can see a lot of logging here, but essentially this is like handing off different requests or tasks to different agents. So you can see there was a task created here. Right now it's completed. I have the response for the medication for the patient. This is the name, which it received from the FHIR server, and the list of medications that are currently on file. So yeah, if we look back at FHIR, which is the logging tool, you can start to like drill down into this. So let me just pick some selection of time here, which is like in the last request here. You can start to see all of the requests that happen. So you can start to break it down. So this is the initial agent creating the request. And yeah, here we can start to see what type of requests were sent out. So this is creating the task. We can then go in here and look at what was actually done. So first thing that would happen is we would have the orchestrator engine run. And you can see that, click in and look at the chat. Again, this is the chat from Gemini. So firstly, it has some information about what this agent actually does. It has the input, which came from me, and it will then look to see what it would do with that request. So it looks like I'm delegating your request to the FHIR agent, which was the correct thing to do to retrieve the medication. So it's going to create a task and send that to the FHIR agent. And this is what it sent over to the FHIR agent. And this is the URL which it found, it discovered. So that's what it sent over. And then we can start to see then what it looks like once it was received by the FHIR agent. So let me just click in here. But essentially what you're looking at here is now the request and all of the logging that happened on the FHIR agent. So if I look at I'm clicking in to see what the LLM responded, and here you can see this is the instructions for the FHIR agent, so it knows what it has to do. It received the input, which was the task that was delegated to it from the orchestration agent, and it looks like the output it's going to use two tools. The first tool is the find medication requests by patient ID, and the second tool is finding the patient. So then you can click through and you can see what happened when it ran those two tools. So it went out and sent a request to a FHIR server and got a bunch of JSON back. And then its response, which is an LLM. So it took in the input was all of those JSON, and the output was the information that we requested. And then that was sent back to the orchestration agent, which responded to us here on the terminal. So yeah, that's the full example, but obviously you can extend this with more agents that have different capabilities, and you can also extend the capabilities of the agents that are here. But a fun little experiment, and like I said, the project is called Health Agents Collective, because I can imagine there's going to be a collection of agents in the future, and I'd welcome contributions. I've had somebody contribute some code which cleaned up the triage agent and added a lot more functionality. So yeah, your support is welcome, and instructions on how to get it up and running is on the GitHub. Yeah, thanks for listening.